And our time is 12:34 at your hometown station 95.3, and it's time now for today's community comment. We head to the Video Daily Dodge TV studio at 100 Bill McCullum Way. Here is Kevin Haugen.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon. Welcome into today's community comment. I'm your host, Kevin Haugen. It is my pleasure to welcome our guests on the program this afternoon. Joining us here on the program today are members of the Beaver Dam Fire Department. It's my pleasure to welcome into the studio this afternoon Chief Michael Wesley and Captain Corey Braunschweig. Thank you both so much, gentlemen, for coming in today.
Hey, thanks for having us. We appreciate this.
Yeah, and don't forget, we're also streaming on Daily Dodge TV, so we didn't bring any sort of cool, maybe next time down the road we can get some equipment that we can show off or present, but today we're just here to chat about trainings, outdoor safety, water safety, so be sure to head to Daily Dodge TV to check us out there. Also, you can hear us on 95.3 WBEV, streaming at dailydodge.com, but we have a lot to get to today, and I want to take the first topic here to highlight really what the guests you brought in today to focus on here with Captain Corey Braunschweig, and that's training and the annual training component with the Beaver Dam Fire Department. Captain, I know it's something that you are heading up with the department, but I know you brought with yourselves today the annual training plan. Maybe if you could start off there and just talk about what that plan is and what that entails. And I'll leave that up, Chief, if you want to introduce it, or Corey, if you want to take that off, I'll let you guys go into it.
Well, sure. We'll give Corey's not somebody that likes to talk about himself, so I'll just give you a quick introduction, and then I'll let Captain Braunschweig here take off. So Corey joined the department in 2006 as a paid-on-call member. He was hired full-time in 2012, promoted to lieutenant in 2020, and then his current position, captain, in 2021. So all of our officers on the department not only act in the capacity of a shift commander, but they all have special duties. Corey probably has one of the most demanding one, and that is our training officer. So he is in charge of everything from setting up our initial probationary training for our new members to development programs such as driver-operator. These are all things that all firefighters have to go through. Officer development. Again, he doesn't like to brag too much, but he's also got a pretty significant number of neighboring departments working together on some regional training officer in a regional training officer group. Pardon me. And then he also puts together company trainings for all the full-time staff when they're at the station. In addition to all of that, he'll put together special trainings, and then he gets everybody set up with the technical college system for our state certified courses that are required by the state.
So, Corey, it sounds like quite a bit of duties and responsibilities that the job entails. Now, is that something that you just sort of found yourself in that role, or is that something that you always had interests in working with the fire department and putting trainings together and coordinating these types of things?
I guess it's kind of been something I kind of grew into as I got further along in my career. Younger, I just kind of wanted to be a firefighter, just come in and do my job and have fun doing it. As I kind of kept on getting more seniority, more time in the department, with the emphasis of training, it kind of really started to intrigue me a lot more. And then when I had the opportunity to take over this role, I really kind of tried to take it as serious as I could and try to make it the best I could for the department and for all the members.
Great. Now, so just sort of before we go into some of the specifics of maybe some of the trainings that are done throughout the year, just give us a little bit of a brief overview. So is it like pretty much at the beginning of a year you look at like, all right, these are the things that we need to focus on, or you recap the previous year? How does that year start off where you put together that training plan?
Yeah, so we actually we usually try to meet earlier in the year for the next year. So we have a training bureau. It's consisted of a handful of officers, firefighters, paid-on-call, career staff. It's all a mixture of a bunch of us. And so we usually actually will meet quarterly. We had a meeting. It got pushed back a little bit, but we met last month where we actually will start looking at the following year and going, hey, what can we start looking at for trainings, any ideas? Toward the end of the year, we kind of will kind of get input from the department members, what went well, what didn't, talk to the instructors, what went well, what didn't, what are some areas that we're lacking, what areas are we doing really good on. And a lot of that will kind of help push the training plan for the following year of where it's going to go. So, but a lot of the stuff we like to do is a lot of hands-on stuff. With the addition of the training facility this last year or year and a half, we really push a lot of hands-on stuff down there now.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up here at some point, but now that you brought it up now, maybe it's a good time to just briefly talk about that. I know, Chief, we had a lot of conversations in the past about that training tower being built here in the city at the old DPW site. And Corey, maybe spend another moment or two just talking about how important it is to have a dedicated site where you can set aside training time and plan and put these things together and have a location where you can even invite other agencies in to practice with you guys. How important is that for the department?
Oh, it's absolutely important. Years ago, before we got this, and it's like this for a lot of other departments, training consists of, hey, where can we go? Can we find an empty parking lot? Can we find a vacant house to train on? This having a building right on site, right on city property is, it makes it a whole lot easier for your crews of, hey, let's run down there 5 minutes away. We can start training now. The other things that it really benefits us is, for especially the live fire aspect of it, years past, and for, like I said, other departments around the county, around the country, a lot of times to get live fire training, you got to wait for a city to have a building or a property owner to want to get rid of a building and say, hey, and talk to the department and say, hey, do you want to use this building for some live fire? And those are pretty far and few in between, and sometimes you might get one that doesn't pan out and it falls through at the end. So this right here will afford us the opportunity to do that, and we try to do that on a routine schedule as well. So this gives us the affordability to do this 3-4 times a year if we can, and really push our members to who don't get a lot of that live fire training, or even a lot of the training just in a smoke-filled environment, or like our department, our training facility can afford people doing rappelling and all the different special opportunities as well. So it gives us the opportunity that we wouldn't otherwise have.
Fantastic. Now, it's a perfect timing to have you guys here on Community Comment, because just last week, now that we're speaking about trainings and different opportunities that you guys do with the fire department, there was a relatively large training held here in the city last week. I believe by Lake Crest Drive here in Beaver Dam, a multi-structure or family occupancy unit, pretty much involving multiple agencies, working on mutual aid box alarm system response as well, I believe was kind of the goal of that training. But Corey or Chief, whoever wants to take the lead on this, sort of just recap for our listeners the training that was held last week and kind of what the focus point of that was.
Go ahead, Corey.
All right. No, so this was like you kind of really hit a lot of it. The goal was to get a lot of departments together. We try to do these more often than we can, but we, as fire department, different departments around the county, we don't really get a lot of time to work with each other, except for the few opportunities we may get a house fire and we see them for a couple hours, then they're gone, and then we don't really talk to them for a while. So this kind of gave us the opportunity to hook up with a lot of our neighbors, network with them, because the last time we did this was, I don't remember the last time we did it, was years ago. Since then, there's been a lot of new members just across the board. So this gave us the affordability to network with them. Other things that we got to do is working on communication with them, making sure that we're on the same communication level. It wasn't really a skills level type department training. It was more just getting all of us together. It also gave us an opportunity for our members and the other members to kind of see some of the other more hazardous structures we could have if there was an emergency in one of those, like a fire or something. So gave them the opportunity to kind of look inside and see what it was and how we work, and we could kind of coordinate our efforts and how we work together. Yeah.
Now, Corey, as somebody who kind of helms the training with the department, how challenging is it to organize and plan and execute a training of this magnitude where there's multiple agencies involved? I'm sure you have to get a lot of people on the same page, even to just get a date on the calendar, because obviously with the field that you guys work in, a bit of it is the unpredictability of it, and you never know what could come up or what could happen. So maybe just spend a moment just talking about what it takes to plan a training of that size.
It's a lot of patience, a lot of coordination. I apologized them to the day of the training for all the emails I sent because you think you got it all planned out, and then something pops up, and you got to kind of go back and start hitting plan B and stuff. But no, and it's a lot of the other departments communicated really good back to me and stuff, and they got back on it at a fairly decent time frame. But yeah, it's coordinating with the departments, coordinating with other city departments. We were going to flow water, so we had to inform the water department that we were going to flow water to make sure they knew that there could be a good drop in pressure in those areas. I had to contact the building manager and the owner to make sure that they were good with it. And then it goes into making sure all the occupants there at least are, most of them are aware of what's going on. So it's a lot of hours spent, making sure you're hitting everything. And, unfortunately, sometimes by the day you hit training, you're like, oh, you forget something, but that's just the nature of the game, and that's how you learn and how you improve on the next one.
Yeah.
So,
have you guys had an opportunity yet to look back at the training a week ago and sort of do an after-action report or review, or is that still to happen quite yet? We
did kind of an informal one the day of with all the department members. Unfortunately, there was rain and a storm coming, so we kind of made it we expedited it a little bit, but I got all the notes. We got notes taken and everything, and I was going to send it out to them and kind of give them and I told them, if you got something for feedback, send it our way, because the only way we're going to know how to fix things and how to improve on things is if people basically will speak up and say, hey, this could have worked better if we did this, or this could have worked better this way. So
now, is this something that maybe this is looking too far out ahead, but kind of a hope every year is to sort of bring together all local agencies and agencies that work together in the field that you guys do to sort of get a training under your belt and work through different situations, maybe not similar to what you guys did last week, but just sort of work together and get familiarized again with you, because like you said, staff turnover changes year after year, new policies come out, different things happen. Is that kind of a focal point, is getting together at least at one point throughout the year and training with all these agencies in our area?
Yeah, I think that's something that we know we need to do, but kind of going back to what Captain Braunschweig mentioned earlier, it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of organization to make it happen. And so it can be difficult. It is something that we would love to do every year, but we only have so much time. And if you look at our training plan compared to a lot of other departments, I think that ours is a lot more robust than you're going to find out there. Just, I guess, some numbers I can share with you from last year. As a department with 43 employees last year, we had over 10,000 hours of training documented, and that equals out to about 230 hours per employee. And so once we get all of our training plan complete with, again, this thing goes through everything from what's required by the federal government, state government, what we require in-house. There's not a whole lot of time outside of that to get these sort of things done. Somehow Captain Braunschweig continually finds ways to add to it. I think in the last year or two, we've done several other ones. We've brought Alliant Energy in for some training. We actually did a confined space rescue class with the REACT, and that's the Regional Emergency All Climate Training Center. That's over in, I believe, Camp Douglas, if I'm not mistaken. Recently, with the help of Napleton, Captain Braunschweig was able to bring in a electrical vehicle safety course that was not only offered to members of our department, but members of other departments locally, law enforcement, and those that are in the towing industry. The guys, and I know Captain Yankee played the major role in this one, but Captain Braunschweig was there to assist. We had a man versus machine class recently, which basically simulates people that are entangled in some sort of machinery. We had some instructors come in from the East Coast for that. That was another big success. I guess I'll just finish up. I can let him talk more if he wants, but they do, not just Captain Braunschweig, but all of our officers do a very good job of bringing in instructors and offering courses that not only the Beaver Dam Fire Department gets the benefits of, but other departments too. They do a very good job of bringing in other organizations, members of other departments. Even if it's not a large-scale exercise like that, it's not a rare occurrence to have members from other organizations training with us. So.
Now, you had mentioned, Chief, just the amount of training hours that are done by your department. And I know a while ago, another press release came out that we had an opportunity to talk a little bit about, but that played a big role in your agency improving its ISO rating. And I believe it is at a rating 2 now, which maybe for those who, and even for me, it's been a while since we last talked about that and not completely familiar or remember exactly everything that involves in that. But just why is that important to have a good rating with the ISO?
So ISO, for those of you that are not aware, the Insurance Services Office, it is actually a private organization that goes out and it classifies communities by the, we'll call it level of fire protection, 1 being the best available and 10 being below standards. And so we were fortunate enough to move from a 3 to a 2. For the past, I'd say, 10 years or so, we were very close to being a 2. Not quite there. We were hoping that the added staffing would put us over. In fact, that didn't put us over, just the added staffing. But fortunately, in no small part to Captain Braunschweig in the training program, that is where we made up a ton of ground and we were able to get that ISO 2 rating. It's a pretty good accomplishment for our department. We're proud of it. Most people want to know, what does that mean for me in the city?
Exactly. Yep.
A good piece of advice, I'd say, talk to your insurance agent. They should know about it by now. The new numbers are out there. But what it means is that you may be eligible for a reduction in your fire insurance costs. Maybe not necessarily your whole cost for insurance to your house, but the portion that's related to fire. And some insurance companies use ISO ratings, some don't, so it's kind of hit or miss. But it is the standard nationally. So it's a great accomplishment for us. The other thing I'll add is that it's not just the fire department. Roughly 40% of that rating comes from the actual water system. So again, a shout out to our friends over at DPW here in Beaver Dam, because the water system that we have is great. We have great fire flow, and so that helps us out. And the other people that play a big role in it is the Dodge County Sheriff's Department. Their 911 center. That is a big part of how we're able to maintain this rating.
Yeah. Maybe before we move on to a different topic, one last follow-up question on training. Captain, are there any other trainings coming up this year, in the next couple months, that you already got planned or ready to go, or are you still trying to figure out how to make those come to fruition here?
A lot of this summer is going to be a lot of hands-on skills. We have a couple more live fire trainings that we're going to do. This year we're scheduled to do about 3 of them. And we try to get guys to go to at least 2 of them. Some people may get to 3, but like I said, that really gives us the ability to really work on that live fire training aspect. Other things, we're going to be doing a lot of fire scenario type trainings. We're going to use the training facility. What we can do is smoke it up, and we can actually give the guys coming in on the trucks a scenario and say, this is what's going on. We got a structure fire. And they basically get off the truck and work. So it kind of puts them in that real time type scenario. Trying to think what else we have coming this one.
It seems like a busy. There always is something to be working on or training on. It seems like.
It's just going to be a lot of like fire scenario, fire type topic type trainings. At the end of the year, we do a lot of annual standards training where we just basically will run people through. Certain skill stations just to make sure that their skill levels are where they need to be. So things of that nature. So.
Fantastic. Again, we're chatting with members of the Beaver Dam Fire Department. Joining us here in studio today are Beaver Dam Fire Chief Michael Wesley and Captain Corey Braunschweig. Now, we have just a few minutes left here on community comments today, but we want to make sure we hit on a couple of quick hits here before we depart. And one of them is, as summer's here and the months are getting warmer. More people will be outdoor burning. And I know for a good chunk of the last couple of months, there's been some restrictions. I know with the DNR with wildfire concerns and issues there, a lot of restrictions were in place. But what are some things that the residents here of the city of Beaver Dam that should know with outdoor burning, Chief?
Yeah, so in the city of Beaver Dam, we do allow some outdoor burning. Not everything is allowed. So basically what we're talking about is recreational fires. And a recreational fire in the city's ordinance is defined as a small campfire on private property that is confined to pits, portable fireplaces. And so this is where you can have a recreational fire. The only real requirements are that it needs to be 15 feet away from a building or a structure. It needs to be on a non-combustible surface. So concrete is a good one. You can have it, you can have it down, dig a pit in your yard. That's acceptable. And non-treated dry wood. The biggest thing that we get complaints about with open burning is somebody that's burning brush or burning something green. And if that is the case and you do call it in or somebody calls it in, you might see us show up and ask you to put it out, because part of the code also reads that it can't be a nuisance to your neighbors. But if you're within those parameters, then we're going to allow you to continue to burn. The other open burning that's allowed is gas and charcoal grills. I think most people would say, well, that goes without saying, but there still are some regulations that go on with that. One thing that I'm going to mention that I think is important that we see often, and oftentimes it leads to fires. I know it's happened in Beaver Dam and other communities. But if you are in an apartment building, if you have any sort of area in your on the outside of your house where you're on a porch, or if it's a covered porch, you do not want to have a grill going on there. So if you're on the second story, you can't be grilling on a covered porch, or even a deck that has a ceiling above you. You need to take that out into the courtyard, or at least 15 feet away from the structure. Those are two very simple things that you can do to prevent a fire. But it seems like every year we have some incident where somebody doesn't take that precaution, and then you end up with a fire or a near miss. So.
Yep. Maybe a real quick not off topic question, but just a side question here for burn pits and people who have those in their backyards, and summer's here, they will be out there doing more burning here in their backyards, or having family and friends over and have a little bonfire in the backyard. When they're done and the evening's come to a close and they're ready to go inside, what's your recommendation to make sure that pit is completely extinguished, that there's no concerns of embers rekindling and spreading? What's a good recommendation for those?
Yeah, so if you actually read the ordinance, it's going to tell you need to have a garden hose or some other means to extinguish it while you're burning. So that's a good avenue to say put the entire thing out, fully extinguish it, get yourself a shovel, mix it around, put some more water on it. We would not recommend letting it burn out on its own. We look for you guys to fully extinguish that fire before heading in.
Yeah, better safe than sorry
Yes.
in those instances. Great. Just with the few minutes we have left, we just want to make sure we also hit on a water safety. More people will be out on the lakes swimming or boating, but again, what are some safety recommendations for those hitting the water here?
Yeah, so I would recommend anybody that's going to go out on the water actually visit the DNR website, and they have some great information in terms of not only safety but regulations. I know since I was a kid, a lot of things have changed. There's some requirements for licensing if you were born. Oh man, I don't even know what the year was now. But if you're a certain age, you actually have to go through a course, same as ATV, UTV, all that good stuff. So that's a great website to actually go and see what you're allowed to do and get some safety regulations. My recommendation is probably going to be a little more aggressive than what the DNR is going to say. The DNR says anybody the age 13 or under has to wear a personal flotation device. We recommend that everybody wears one when they're on the water at all times. There's some great ones out there that aren't so cumbersome anyway, that are Coast Guard approved. They cost a little more, but they're a great safety device. We would definitely recommend that. Other than that, the other thing that I'll touch on is that the DNR does require that most boats need a fire extinguisher. Now you're going to find two different types of fire extinguishers, generally speaking, on boats. One is going to be a rechargeable extinguisher. These are usually a little more expensive, but they have a much longer life. The other thing the DNR allows is a disposable fire extinguisher. But recently they changed that, and any extinguisher that's over 12 years that's disposable, so we're talking about kind of the cheaper plastic ones, anything 12 years or old has to be disposed of, and they're not going to accept that as a fire extinguisher anymore. So grab your fire extinguisher. If it is 12 years old, get it replaced. Otherwise, you can look in the phone book. If you have a good metal fire extinguisher, there are several companies that service those and can make sure they're in good working order. But when you're out on the lake, if you do have an incident, a fire extinguisher is great to have because it's going to take a while for help to get there. So that's your first line of defense.
Another one of those, better safe than sorry. Better if you get a life jacket, have fire extinguishers. You never know when an incident might come up where you'll need those equipments.
Absolutely.
On that note, I want to thank our guests here on Community Comment this afternoon. Again, we are joined with Beaver Dam Fire Chief Michael Wesley and Captain Corey Braunschweig. Thank you guys both so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And that will do it for today's Community Comment.